All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to our YouTube. It's another RUPL vid. This time we're going to recap the semifinals. And spoiler alert, there's a tiebreak. So we're going to talk about that too. I'm joined once again by Evigaro and Gum. Say what's up.
Bye.
Hello.
Yeah.
Daily
All right.
reminder that if this channel gets to 1,000 subscribers, I'm doing a makeup tutorial on our YouTube.
Yeah.
How many
Go Evie.
followers does it have now?
I don't know. We're like
Not
150-ish,
enough.
somewhere around that, or something like
Okay,
that.
like
It's like
by 20, I don't know, like 35.
2035. We're on the same path of growth. Yeah. We'll hit 1K. But anyway, let's get right into it. So, semifinals, four teams. We had the Party Crashing Pranksters matched up versus Technicians. This was the 1 versus the 4 seed. And then the Guardians versus the Toxic Chains. I think this was the 3 versus the 2 seed. Um, and yeah, you can see that the Pranksters Technicians, they tied, and the Guardians clutched up and are moving on to finals for the third or fourth year in a row. Gum,
Third.
it's third year in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guardians, familiar territory for them, and they're waiting for whoever comes out of this set. But let's talk a little bit about what happened last week to begin with. So, pranksters, technicians, uh, just overall, some comments here. A little surprised to see the technicians like SV Core basically fold the pranksters. Um, pranksters had a really strong showing in SV all season, and for them to go like well, including the best of three slot, which Felly also lost in two in SV and I think SM. To see them go 1-4 in semis was kind of interesting to see. Um, Gum, I know you've talked a lot about pranksters and their like SV pursuits before. What do you kind of make of all that? How does the team that's like this strong just is this like a fluke? They just go 1-4 in semis. Is it just like a one time thing?
Mm, I think they like started to overcook in the builder. Like I don't like fully explain the third grass slow bro, but I just cannot get behind it. Because it's like, especially I feel like on that team you really don't want third grass slow bro because it's like it's your gap dose answer, and it's like if you want to throw that, you just don't have anything else. It just seems like a super like specific third type that you just really don't need.
Yeah.
And but other than that, I feel like they just like didn't prep well for what the technicians brought. Like the technician just brought Ocean Spikes or HO. And I
Hmm.
think there's like a good example of like them just not prepping well. I think the Felly game against Franklin, uh Felly had the bad Ocean set and he lost to opposing Ocean because the opposing Ocean was a good set with spikes. So he just like got overwhelmed super quickly and he couldn't like really do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I don't
True
know.
enough. I will also say about the slow bro thing. Generally, in my mind, because Charlie brought up a Calm Mind slow bro, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Calm Mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like with those guys, it's like one of the main points of having a like a Terra Poison is generally what you are on those slow bros. Not only does it keep you like neutral versus Zapdos, and like keeps your fighting resistance stuff, but it also just like turns off Toxic from like being annoying to you, and like Terra Grass doesn't really do that. So it didn't really matter in the
Uh,
game, I don't think. But yeah, just an interesting point
Me,
to note.
yeah. In a way, it
Uh,
helped that game because like I guess like Fairy or like even Poison, it was more helpful,
mhm.
but it was like more helpful than just being like I don't know, like psychic water would have been. Except like maybe against the by sharp interaction, but like even then you can like just go for the 50-50 with your own Thera. So I don't know. I think it's like maybe
Nah,
like a decent neutral type, but in general, like just from a building perspective, I don't think I would ever consider it.
nah, yeah, you're spitting. I'd agree with that. It's like it's funny. Maybe a little bit of a different spin on the old school Felly bro, where it used to be
Yeah.
Rindoberry on the Slowbro, and
Mhm.
now it's turning into a grass type. I mean that is a little bit funny. That did not evade my funny radar, but sometimes you don't need to be funny. Sometimes you just need a Slowbro with a better Terra. So, nah,
But
happens.
even then, like to be fair, I think that game was quote unquote won anyway.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
he was definitely
so
not
so
Yeah.
the best position.
so yeah, I don't know because I don't think that's the worst example. I mean, I get what you're all saying, but I don't think it's the worst example of overcooking. Um, because like I think let's say it's 2-3, right? Like if 3D doesn't get luck.
Hmm.
Besides that, I think the one game that like to me the prankster had the clear disadvantage is my knight versus fish on Nanometer. They lost that one. I think fair. Floss versus Plague. To be honest, Floss kind of just lost that one in the builder. Like you guys talking about that, like um, Volcanion
Yeah.
pretty much 6-0'd the two like bulky defensive mon. There was nothing that really checked Volcanion after it
Hmm.
kicked Terra Blast Fairy and it had taunt. And Raikou was super annoying. Just like you needed Decidueye, which is a weird thing to say 2025, to be like healthy. But like CM Raikou, the moment Umbreon took that Terra Blast, like that was over.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
think
don't
So
exactly understand what the vision was for Decidueye. Um,
it has to be for Witching. I think they're
I
just
yeah,
like
mean,
I
super
mean yeah,
paranoid about it. Because they
I
could have felt
guess.
in what
yeah,
other brings. Like Philly, I
yeah.
think
No,
Philly
that's fair.
first game, like in SV, and he just lost like super badly to it, and I think they just like got scared of it, and I don't know.
I don't think necessarily this was like a bad call. It's just like because like randomly enough, it could have won versus Raikou, but it needed to be healthy. And Floss didn't click Roost. He doubled to Gengar on one turn, which pretty much guaranteed his loss.
Yeah,
So I don't know because I mean the team was really weak to Raikou after that, and Volcanion like the two together, Floss just had no answer.
true. Where is your Storm Dragon Gastrodon when you need it?
But it was dead to Volcanion
True,
because Volcanion is very balanced.
true. Volcanion is the goat. Honestly, we're running a suspect test for Oricorio right now, and it's like fine. People are annoyed by the burb. It like Terras, but I'm like, who cares? Bring a Gudra, bring Umbreons, bring Pheasantipity or something. What are you gonna do versus Volcanion? You can't do nothing versus Volcanion. That mon is crazy. We
Yeah,
should be suspecting Volcano Man.
I think it's the closest thing to like being broken in the tier.
Yeah,
It's like super annoying in the builder, and I think it's like a huge reason for like why people are using Gastrodon so much. Despite like
yeah,
like people are coping with like Fizz Death Gastrodon, but the thing is like, but that said, we talked about this a bit earlier, but like that said is like it's a terrible ground. Like like if you want to use a physical ground, like you mostly want to use Hippo, but then that opens you up to like Volcanion mostly, which you can't really afford in this meta. But then
Yeah,
Gastro like it's immune to water, so
yeah.
whatever.
true.
But then it's like it's a terrible check to Mimikyu or Bisharp. So we're just like stuck with this sort of mid ground that sets spikes.
Yeah, it really is just the ground type that is like a water immune, and then the spikes are kind of like the added on. It's like the bonus. It's like okay, I can do something without being just like passive as like
Yeah.
not actually doing anything. You know?
I mean, if you remove Volcanion from the tier, like I don't really see what Gastrodon has like over Swampert. Because like Swampert knockoff flip turn, like you look at a lot of those Gastro team and you're like, damn, you really would like these things in that slot. Like you can say spikes, sure, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean that Gastro has spikes and recovered. Swampert has knockoff and flip turn. I mean they do like different things in my mind. Like
Yeah,
those
but
two
like
mons
if
aren't
you look at
exactly
yeah,
comparable.
yeah, but you look at Floss team, like say Umbreon's wish support, like that makes more sense. You can bring like the Magnus on set was interesting. Like it was like Courage Beam, which I always really like to see.
Yeah.
So like you could do things with the momentum in that slot. I don't know.
No, I got you. Also, I on the Magnezone point, it is interesting that the pranksters like I this might go into like this kind of what they've tried been doing all season, but it's like they really don't like using the quote unquote standard sets. It's like I think Felly hates Scarf Gapdos at this point. I think everything he's running now is just like Pads Gapdos. I think every Magnezone they've brought has been AV. I think Fez, they're on some weird Scarf Fez kick recently, which is, I mean, personally, I think
Yeah,
that's
but
inadvisable, but I mean, they like bringing it, so it
Fine.
is what it is. But
I mean, I think it makes sense because like again, like Alpha's teams are super besties with each other, and they're all retired. And Philly really likes proving points. Like he's like, oh yeah, my way of seeing things is good, and I'm gonna prove it to you by winning. So like I totally expect that from them, and Ajna's just gonna get on board with it because like it's Ajna.
yeah, I'm
So
interested to
I don't
see who's
know.
like bringing up these points. It's like who is pushing the Scarfez agenda so hard for them.
I mean, didn't Ajna use Scarf Chen in STL? I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, yeah, Scarf Wochan with Leaf Storm. I remember Felly. I think during RUBD season, he built some set. It wasn't a Scarf Wochan, but it had a Wochan with Leaf Storm on it. And then like during RUPL, Ashna came back, and I was like talking to him, and I mentioned that set, and he's like, yeah, he just ripped me off from my SCL set, and I'm like, okay. uh,
Faster.
so yeah, I mean they're very tight with each other, like you said. So you know, I don't doubt that they're kind of having that brain trust moment where all of their ideas are kind of just coming together. But I am interested to see who's like spearheading some of these more outlandish sets. I think like there was one set. I think there were like one week they brought like a covert cloak hip out on. That was interesting. I was like, damn. I don't. I kind of understand, but also not really. Um,
I'd use it on a team like super weak to Jirachi.
yeah, it's just to me mostly most of the time when you're like using covert cloak, it's like you want to turn off like side noise, which is fair for Hippo, but also like I don't know, because like you also turn off Scald burns, but you don't want the Hippo to stay in on Scald either. So it's like, it's really worth it. Unsure, but yeah. Um,
Speaking of cover cloak, sorry, I really hope they bring a Nestle stack in the tiebreak.
they
Like that
bring
would
what
make
back?
my day. Nestle stack.
Oh, Knuckle stack.
You know, yeah, Nickel stack. Sorry,
Mr.
that's
Saltboy
my guy.
himself. Mr. Saltboy himself. I mean, that would be very funny. I don't know if that's exact. Well, actually, no, that is definitely a mon that the pranksters would look at trying to crack some devious knackle stack, hazard stack nonsense. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of the SV. We spent a lot of time talking about that. But for everything that went wrong for this team in SV, including like getting locked, like we mentioned this briefly, but 3D did have like a pretty winning position versus Metallica, but then he got like crit on a Bisharp Ironhead on Rhyperior, and then he lost the game. Happens. But for everything that went wrong in SV, went right for them in the old gens. They basically a clean sweep. Sword Shield to Black White swept, and then ADV tack loss to Berries, which makes sense. Berries has had a stupendous season, and played a really great uh, kind of just game in ADV. What can I say? Berries is the goat. Um, but yeah, Evie, what were some of your thoughts on these old gen games? Specifically, the Sensei Axu versus ES game. I'm also interested if you saw the Finch versus Excel game.
I can look over the Finch game after, or while I'm talking about the SM game.
Yeah,
But when you don't bring a dark resistance any tier, like in any RU tier that like maybe is an ADV, you run the risk of exactly that happening. I feel because and I also I've never liked web Araquanid teams in that sense because Araquanid, like I've always viewed like the really good set for that mon as like the one Ajna used to spam in like officials, like the sub-toxic Araquanid. Like by far, I think that's the best set. But then Blastoise kind of became the best one in that year, and well, that became annoying because you couldn't switch into Blastoise. And the main reason you couldn't switch into Blastoise was Dark Pulse, and lo and behold, ZS kind of lost to Dark Pulse. Um,
Yeah, I
so
will
that
say
was frustrating.
it is tough in the tier when again ZS's team had no dark resistance, and they actually rolled up with the Houndoom. So it's like,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
gets real
but
awkward
also
real
like
quick.
yeah, but like okay, but like even if webs are up, like let's say like half of ZS team was outsped by Dark Pulse and by Undo, but like really, I'm just calling it Dark Pulse because there was no reason to pick anything else. Um, like Alpha's team still died, and then there was a Cresselia, so and even then there was a Blastoise. So like if things got bad, like it's Miss Magus not gonna block Blastoise very well. So just unfortunate matchup, and I don't really like his team for a team that kind of relies on web that much. I like Setal's broken kind of in a sense, but like not because it's a massive wall breaker. It's just nothing switches into it. But you don't need webs for that. Miss Magus is good, but like Miss Magus would rather have spikes pretty much every time.
Hmm.
Um, and then I don't know. Aerodactyl's decent, but like not really. Maybe one mistake he made was like not kill the Houndoom with Araquanid and instead set up webs, which was puzzling because then it kind of meant Cresselia won anyway. I don't know. I don't like his teams. I'm not like that much of a fan of Sensei's team. Like um, Cresselia's fine. I don't think it's that bad. But the team is awkwardly speed invested, and Steelix as like the main defensive mon, I just never really liked him in that year. But it it kind of was a tailor made for the matchup he got, so can't really complain.
Yeah. Gum, did you
I
have
don't
anything to
play
say
this
about
tier.
this? I know you were a big
Yeah,
grind
like I
guy.
don't really play this tier, but um, apparently like the Missy was power gem. So if like CS just got webs up early, he just won the game because it just like 6-0'd Ryan's team.
Oh, the Missy was Power Gem
Yeah,
over what? It's like Nasty Plot sub Power Gem Shadow Ball.
no, not T-Bolt. So just
Oh,
like
that's
three attacks,
T-Bolt.
which I think like makes
Then why
sense
Oh,
did
considering like Ryan spams Houndoom, but
but then why didn't he click it? And why did he click um liquidation on Steely? I
a good
don't
question.
yeah, 'cause like
the world may
oh
never
well.
know. But if it was Power Gem Missy, that's kind of epic, even though it, you know, didn't do anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting to know that the tech was there. Um, yeah. Evie, did you watch this Finch versus Excel game? This was just like a very dominant win by Finch. That's like all I wanted. Like it was essentially 6-0. It wasn't actually 6-0, but it was like basically
Oh,
6-0.
I see what happened. So okay, I'm super old, but I remember when I was kind of starting. Uh, Call 49 for like the really holdeds. The that was like one of the best RU builder like back in Black and White Pro SM. Um, like he said something in Black and White like about a new player like oh he finally figured out that like in Black and White like Slowking switches into Rotom neutral and like that kind of stuck into my head because like yeah at the time like very bulky Slowking like Volswitch did nothing and that kind of happened to Axel here because like the water resist the Slowking resist rather ended up being Lantern but Lantern couldn't bring Slowking so kind of just lost to Slowking
Yeah.
hard.
Finch also played like very good with his own rotom to start the
Yeah,
game. So like Pain split like
yeah, definitely.
87 times in front of that Tangrowth, and then somehow also walked away with the Mesprit KO. Like that's like that was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Also, well, Rotom had a good matchup too because well, I mean, it didn't end up mattering that much, but Volt Switch was super free versus Axel.
Yeah, well, I will say it does matter that it's the a Rotom Mo clicking Volt Switch because you do have Lantern there. Because it's like if it's something like a I don't know, uh, like just a regular Rotom, like Rotom neutral. I mean, you could switch Lantern in and be okay with that. But if it's Rotom Mo,
Well,
you don't
then,
really want to.
well, if it's Rotom neutral, the Shadow Ball resist is Durant. But yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I mean, Lantern could eat that easy enough. It's taken like 25 or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, you can get burnt and stuff. It is what it is. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the Rotom Mo just had a very hard time for Excel to deal with. Because it's like, okay, what are you gonna do? You're gonna switch in like what? After the Tangrowth gets to like 20% or in Leaf Storm range, it's like, are you gonna switch in like Durant? Like, no, you're not. You're not gonna switch in Durant. And then Mesprit obviously just got to it KO'd outright, which I was honestly a little surprised about. Like, I know Rotom's strong, but I mean that's still a Mesprit. Like Leaf Storm, you know, doing 70 into 35 was like off non specs. I'm like, damn, that's like a ton of damage. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was
Well, Leaf
definitely like
Storm
some
is
sort of.
buffed in.
Yeah, but like Mesprit has like base 105 SpDef or something, like 95 HP. Like it was definitely not bulk invested like Mesprit, but still, like that did so much damage.
I think it's 80 HP, but yeah, I mean, Leaf
Oh, you think it
Storm
was
is
80?
like 210 base power. Yeah, it's 210 base power in black and white. Like, it's really stupid.
Mm, big damage. But yeah, I mean that was just a very good win by Finch. Um, that I did want to highlight because I remember seeing that game live and I was like, damn, that's crazy. Uh, Chai Doug, I didn't actually see this game live, nor have I seen the replay. I don't think.
Venusaur.
It's a Venusaur moment. Hey, many such
Yeah, that's a
cases.
Venusaur moment.
Many such
Pretty
cases.
much.
Guys just get Venusaur. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about the old gens?
I don't think I watched any of them.
Word.
Yeah, besides the next one.
Word. I
What
mean,
about
we talked
No
about it.
one watched. No one watched Gen 8. Classic RU YouTube moment.
I mean, Dynamax versus OBB.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, I did watch
Nah.
that one. But like the
This was.
end only. And I think
I like
OBB
kind of
didn't go
remember
for
this
the
game, but also
Viking
not
game.
really.
Which is like, I don't know. It was a boring watch. Which is like, yeah, typical SS, you know? But still.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember the win post Dunox put. I Dunox care. Yeah. I know. I do remember this game. No, this is a hard game to say because it's like for a vast majority of the game, OBV was in a very good position, but then tried to pull the trigger with Demon Gross versus like an Infestation, Leech Seed, Vileplume, and that just didn't work out. Uh, sacked Mimikyu, which right? I'm pretty sure this
Oh,
is the game.
No, it's
we can
not.
talk all about stacking Mimikyu.
I don't think so. Like, I think that he made a mistake in that, like, at the end, there was a point where he had to go, like, Flygon. Wait, no. Uh, Aerodactyl against the Flygon. And it's like, um, he can't click U-turn. Wait, no, he can't Stone Edge, because then he just gives a setup opportunity for Mimikyu, and then Mimikyu just wins. But if he clicks U-turn, he also gives like Aerodactyl a free DD. But then he just went Mimikyu for some reason, and he lost.
True. Yes. 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 Yeah, I remember. Man, another thing, I thought the Suicune was probably used a little too hastily. Uh,
Yeah,
because like that Suicune is capable of like beating this team, especially since the Reuniclus kind of went down early. Um, it's just tough, right? Well, there's no guarantee the
Hmm.
Reuniclus would have been sacked afterwards if the Suicune was alive. If it's Calm Mind Reuniclus, maybe that's how you deal with Suicune. But this was a sub CM Coon, and it's like, you know, if you keep your lefties on, you can maybe set up on Entei, you can set up on Registeel, maybe you can definitely set up on Vileplume. Uh, and it's like I don't know, just trading it for the Pangoro was like kind of useful, but I feel like you kind of probably just could have gotten more out of it. I don't know. It was so early in the game; it's hard to say how things would have turned out afterwards. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
and then the Life Orb Flygon and the Aerodactyl were in like fabulous position to blow up the rest of this team, especially once the Registeel ate that Earthquake. But I don't know. It OBV maybe got a little too comfortable with their position, maybe a little too, thought they could, okay, let me take my foot off the gas. I can just cruise to a win and don't ask manage to turn it around on them. But yeah, tough time for the technicians. They really would have wanted that game back, especially since, they ended up tying. That was a very big game for them. Yeah, all right.
I think they were like up 5-2 at some point. And honestly, I just like expected them to win at that point. I was like, okay, congrats, they made finals.
Yeah.
It's
But
still
shout out to
nice.
the Pranksters.
It's
They
still
brought it
nice.
back.
Yeah.
Pranksters brought it back. All right. Does anyone have anything else to mention about kind of this set? We've talked about this kind of at length at this point.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
but
just
I
waiting
was curious.
for. Sorry, go on.
I can like go.
All right.
No, I'm
Cool.
just waiting for the tiebreak discussions.
Oh, okay.
We will talk
Well,
about that after
I
we
think
talk
it's
about.
impressive that they came back. But I think it's impressive that like they managed to come back from 2-5.
Yeah.
And I think like they definitely have the momentum now, so excited to see how it goes.
Yeah. And we'll get to that hashtag soon. But next, we do have another set to talk
Right.
about, which is also pretty close, right up until the end. Guardians versus Toxic Chains. This was a very kind of seesaw type set. So the Toxic Chains came out like just swinging super early. They came out with like a 3-0 lead. These, Evie, Batty, and C. I'm pretty sure these were the first three games of the week that were played. Um,
Yeah.
and they took like a 3-0 lead. Then one, two, three, four, 5 games happened. Then Stretch happened, and then I think Meru closed it out versus Oyster, which was you know, very disappointing for the Toxic Chains. But shout out to the Guardians for making finals for the third time in 3 years. Um, we'll see if
Guardians.
you can break the finals curse though. See if you can actually finish the job this year.
No. I've accepted that we're losing again. It's fine.
But okay, let's talk about this head a little bit. Similarly to kind of the pranksters technicians, you know, set. The SV was very lopsided in this set. Stresh won versus Drip Legend, but beyond that, I'm pretty sure every other SV game was in the Guardians' favor. Obviously, Boof on Brigum, but I'm pretty sure Punny closed it out versus Robin too, and I think that was also
Yeah, he did.
SV and SM. I think so.
It
Yeah,
was.
Gum, talk to us about that. Uh, it's not
SV
like
was
the
like
Toxic
super
Chains
easy
have
in
the
the game.
strongest SV core ever, but it's like 4-1 is still very impressive. Yeah, go on.
It just we decided to spam Porygon Z, and we did that, and we won a lot with it. So
Yeah, shout out to
just
PZ.
gonna
You've
just see what
been
happens.
you've been using that like a very, well, I won't say a very fat set, but it's like a fat or PZ with like recover and like nasty plot and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what's the deal with that?
I mean, it's really good, and just won us a bunch of games too. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it can like use pretty much anything it wants, and I think it's like super good at finishing like bike structures, which I think bike structures are like super easy to punish anyway. But when you have like a slow mod that gives like Porygon like a free entry to get like a download boost against Hippo or like Gastrodon,
Mm-hmm.
then you're like just free to just flick an attack and it's super scary and like difficult for a lot of teams to handle.
Yeah,
So that was kind of like the logic behind it, really.
I think too. Underrated like kind of aspect of Porygon is you have that stab on Terra Blast. Uh, and that Terra
Yeah,
Blast can just be whatever you want. Like part of what makes PZ so like kind of
Hmm.
customizable is the fact that you can just make Terra whatever you want. Like you've seen like just personally, I've seen Terra fighting, I've seen Terra ground, I've seen like I don't know. Well, it's mostly just fighting and ground. It's something to hit steel types. And then you normally run that next to like Shadow Ball, but you don't have to run it next to Shadow Ball. You can, have other stuff. You can have like Ice Beam or T-Bolt or whatever if you want. Um, but yeah, very, very diverse mon. You can do whatever you want with that guy. You've seen Double Dance. You've seen
yeah.
now like Nasty Plot plus Recover. Do a lot. You can do a lot.
I haven't played a lot with PZ and SVRU, but I play a lot of Ren Bats, and like this one is such a threat in Ren Bats, so it kind of doesn't surprise me because just because of what you said. Like it's super hard because you think like, oh, your sped F wall generally will handle it, but download makes it really easy to not. And then the Terra Blast guessing game is super annoying.
So true. So true. What do you think is what are your like kind of terrors of choice on PC? I think we saw Terra fighting from y'all, but I could be
What do you use for fighting? And he revealed it last week. I used Fair Fairy week 5
wrong.
against
Yeah,
Fish.
Fair is good.
I think there is like a bit better on more like defensive teams, like balance and stuff, because it just like gives you. I think it's like the most consistent type in general, and that fighting is like way scarier like offensively. But I think when like you use recover, you kind of want the defensive utility, so it works.
No, for sure. I mean, fighting leaves you open to like, you know, arguably like a top two mon, top three mon in the tier in Gapdos, and you're not
Yeah,
running any speed boosting, so it's like big threat if you decide to tear into a disadvantageous type versus that guy. Whereas Fairy is very safe. You flip that same Gapdos fighting weakness actually into a resist, and Fairy is just a very useful typing. You blow up Bike, you blow up Noivern, all the dragons really. And then also like the random fighters that pop up here and there, the Darks, Crocodile, etc. So yeah, definitely can't fault
that's
Fairy.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was kind of SV. I mean, I
I
will
mean,
touch a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Abby.
I just like I think like looking at this was always gonna be super difficult for us. Um, like I don't really. I think maybe like you could say like Boof versus Toina, but Boof has way more experience, and like earlier when we played the Guardians, we matched Stred versus Umbri, and at first I was kind of second guessing it, but like maybe we should have done that again.
Yeah.
Um, that would have because like if Stretch wins that game, like I feel like it's a lot easier for a TK or Ampha to win one of those games. Like not that any slot is like really easy to beat, but it probably would have suited us more.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, the toxic chains kind of struggles with SV have been somewhat well documented. A lot of
Yeah.
reusing, a lot of pulling from other people's teams.
Okay, we used one of your teams. We know.
You used like three of mine. You used like three of our teams, Abby. Like me
Oh,
personally,
I have not. I
it
I'm
was like
watching my
two
hands on
teams
this.
that two old teams that I built, and then like y'all just stole some teams from us, like that we used in other
See,
slots, like the Hustlers. But
he's still talking about it. That's
no, because that is like part of the SV struggles. I mean,
yeah,
it's been hard to kind of point to well, besides Stretch. Stretch has been kind of at least from
yeah.
what everything that has been told, he's been like a very self-sufficient guy, but outside of that, not very useful as a source of inspiration, I should say, for the rest of the team. And then it's kind of been up to like Toinha and Ampha to Rob Jr. to scrap together teams from like other people or try to build for themselves, which at least for Ampha has he's historically had some trouble with that. Rob Jr. too, I don't really think really builds his own teams. Mostly is just use stuff he's been passed. Um,
Yeah.
TKO certainly is the case, and then Toana's the only guy I can kind of say is like, okay, he's trying to build. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
for
yeah.
sure. I mean, shout out a Trinator for like trying, but it wasn't the easiest environment for any builder to be in, just because
Hmm.
again, no one really outside of Stretch and Ampha were like super familiar with the tier,
Hmm.
so kind of created a weird environment in building
Yeah.
for it, but it happens.
Yeah. But the old gens, they did do some of their job. Similar again, kind of similar to the pranksters technicians that the old gens is where the chains kind of hung their hat. You know, Evie, you, Batty, and C kind of put on for the team, gave you all of that early lead, but Sword Shield and SM
Yeah,
unfortunately were not there to kind of mirror the pranksters. Um, but yeah, talk to us a little bit about the kind of these slots. So like
yeah,
what exactly was your set versus MZ, right? Like why did you bring that
yeah.
team? Why did you bring like fake EVHO?
I didn't even build that team actually, because like I did. Uh, we added the Diogo to the Discord, and Diogo asked me like if I wanted to use like a Melo at that team, and I'm like, sure, bet. And he creates this team titled Bullshit Team, and it kind of ends up being like a Timu EVHO as you called it. Um, but I actually really like the look of it, because looking at it really quickly, you kind of feel like, oh yeah, okay, so it's a lead arrow kind of thing, but it actually kind of isn't. An arrow's sort of a breaker on that team. So, and the lead is more Glalie. Diogo and I were so puzzled that like MZ clicked seismic toss turn one, because almost as if like he knew that this was gonna be a taunt Glalie, which is kind of unexpected, because like it was
I
taunt
think
EQ, which taunt EQ is never run in Aras. Like it's just not. It's
I
not
think it's
really a
because we
step.
tested like with an HO that had taunt like I think we had like an HO too with taunt lately, so he kind of like saw it coming.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of HOs with Glalie because I think Glalie is broken, but I think that's it. Sucks. Like I would never run that set personally if I'm building the team. Like I just because like so that's why we're kind of puzzled, because like I have a lot of Glalie teams in my scout, but I can't remember ever running that. Anyway, so it kind of did decent because like it was forced to defog with Scar Flagon, which I could pick with Ice Fang Aerodactyl, but like Aerodactyl was kind of weak to Scrafty because we didn't have flying move. So I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna get Scrafty with an NHL. Didn't man, I was fine. I got lucky with the detail miss.
Yeah, I mean that was a huge miss.
But
It kind of evened out
but
later
man,
with the focus miss, but
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the focus miss was dumb because like I knew I was modest Meloetta, and the way NZ kind of like just went Glalie after I feel he was calking, I was like, okay, so he figured out it's modest because of the damage. But he clicked Ice Shard, and I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna click Focus Blast. And I'm like, why didn't I click Psychic? Like, it was dead to Hazards, and I'm like, I'm dumb. And the answer, yes.
Is Modest Mellow
Um,
still slower than Glalie pre Mega?
yeah, it's 284. Yeah, it's 284 Glalie, and Meloetta is 270.
Oh,
But
dang.
yeah. Anyway, the crit on Venusaur kind of sucked. Like I kept attacking what was in front of me because, like, at that point I was like, if he goes Venusaur, Verzion wins
Hmm.
because it has Zenith butt. But the crit kind of just helped. I don't know if it had Giga Drain, but like I looked at it and it didn't recover enough, so I was like, oh whatever. But yeah, so the crit was just a little annoying.
Yeah,
But yeah, besides that, I don't know. Funny game. Didn't really think too much, but that's why I brought that.
yeah. What about the other slots? And then this is a question extended to you too, Gum. Like, how did y'all go about uh kind of prepping for these old gen slots?
Mario wanted to bring Uniclus because he was like, yeah, Oyster like always loses to it, and he
And
was
he
right.
did lose.
I
He
think,
did lose to that Reuniclus.
but the thing is, like, I think he could have sort of like avoided it. That's the thing, because
Yeah.
he didn't like try to PP stall side shock at all, which I didn't get,
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
that was
we
doable
were
for
talking
him, I
about
think.
that. Yeah, we were talking about that in the call during that game.
Hmm. If we can just, because you had sub, even though you weren't protect, sub is just enough. You
Yeah,
sub like 3 times, you burn like that's like 6 PP. And the way the game ended, Reuniclus ended with less than like six
well,
side shock PP. Yeah.
you have
So it's
four,
like
yeah, so
you could have just stalled that out. You could have even gotten like hard Zatu on some turns to like, force some side shocks early. So then maybe you could even keep Suicune, but nah. Hard
sure,
to say.
yeah.
I mean, I think
I was
Oyster
gonna,
was down on that because the Zatu was really hopeless versus Reuniclus. If it had Nightshade, I think he would have tried it.
Mm.
I think like he just also didn't know what the last move was. Was he gonna
Yeah,
Yeah,
get?
was it Shadow Ball? I mean that's kind of what I
No,
thought, but
we're
acid armor.
focused.
Oh, it was
We're
focus.
focused blast. Yeah. I think at
Dang.
some point we were Psyshock Frostnot though, which would have been way better there, but
Hmm.
whatever.
I think most of them are
yeah.
Psyshock Grass Knot. That makes sense. So like for him to make that assumption.
I
Yeah,
think
and
what.
then
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go continue.
I don't know where to go. I was going to like move on to the SM game, but if you have
Okay.
something to say
Okay.
about the
Yeah.
Aces game, just go ahead.
Yeah. I think what was the most disappointing about that game, like watching it, like Ming heard me talk about it, is like Mimikyu's super tough in his sword and shield to break through just because of the ability and like the way it damages everything. And the fact that Meru got away with losing Zero Mon to Mimikyu just kind of made the game super difficult for Oyster.
Yeah,
Because,
I
yeah,
Uh,
I
thought.
feel like, yeah. I mean, Meru did fine because, like, Meru did what he had to do. Like, say, okay,
Mhm.
it's not gonna be like drain a player off, so I can stay in. I can take a +1 or +2 hit if it's rank punch. And he was correct. So, and that really blew for Oyster. I
yeah,
was second
this
guessing
was the
during the
biggest.
call. Yeah, I was second guessing during the call, not going to Flygon on the EQ that killed Registeel. Because the Flygon was Arc Helmet. I didn't really see what Flygon was doing in the game. So like if you could take that chip, you or like say dodge a EQ and then click EQ, Guzzlord kills you with knockoff, it's in range of +2 drain punch. Like at least like maybe find a way to get around that call. Because like if you see Guzzlord, like you kind of know that Mimikyu doesn't KO this with drain punch. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that was the point we talked about like during the game when it was live, and I still kind of agree with that. I didn't really see what Flygon was doing at that point. Um, and keeping Registeel while kind of whatever. I mean, it's still like a little bit of damage you can force on Reuniclus. Maybe you can force off some recovers. You can burn side shots, force focus
Yeah,
blast.
yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah. Oh well.
yeah, hindsight 2020.
What
Get him next year.
what was yeah, what was it, what were you gonna say about the SN game? Because I wanted to go there anyway.
Oh, the I just like I never know what's going on in Kimiko's channel to just they post the weirdest shit ever, and then they like they go, oh, never mind, and then they bring like they just like post something else that's like super weird, and then they just like bring something normal. I mean, I think normal like they don't have like Clefairy or like whatever else. It just it's a mess. That's kind of like all I have to say about that game, other than like uh I think it was like weirdly played from both. Like I think the third chemical like CC against the toxic rock, I thought it was like super weird. I don't know. I didn't understand it, but maybe there was like a reason.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, Evie, you have
Um.
some big thoughts about this game. I'm interested to hear what you kind of have to say about all that too.
I'm. I. 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 I was looking at it again, and the, you, so at some point, Crossbow tries to trick with Metagross, and Kumiko goes to Golisopod, and the trick fails. So that's a Z move, Golisopod. So I kind of understand a little bit. Like I was looking at it again, I kind of understand what Crossbow was thinking. Like, is it like Z ground? Is it something? Because the team is really weak to Toxic Road. Um, like the one counter Kumiko has is like Flygon, but it's not that great a counter. Everything else kind of just loses because the Northern is Scarf, so it doesn't actually do the job very well. But Crossbow lost 2 months to Golisopod, and it ended up not being anything that could really damage Toxic Roads. It's just such a weird game, honestly. Because like I get not knowing this, but like Crossbow sacked so much to not figure that out. And then at some point he lost his Diancie to a liquidation to set up rocks, I think. Like hmm, I
Yeah,
don't know. I This was weird. Cause and again like I just looking at the team again, like I was really useless like in building, like in general, because like I was way too preoccupied with too many things. But Toxic Rogue ended up being super good, but then kind of not because didn't get enough turns and didn't get in as aggressively on Yolisopal as it could have. But
Yeah,
the team struggles super hard with breaking. I don't know, just a really weird.
it was like a good mon on paper, but in practice maybe a little awkward to get in. It was good, but maybe not good enough to
Yeah,
do what you needed it to.
yeah,
All right, and that was kind of it for SM. Black White ADV. Not gonna lie, I was not super glued to that. Maybe I don't know if you were. I don't know if you were. Um,
no, I did watch it. I mean,
okay.
yeah, I think we didn't like play like super well. I think it was like we kind of just like lost almost every like 50-50 against Specs Tangrowth.
Hmm.
I think we needed like Ferocity more than we needed like the Toad, but I don't think we knew that then, and we sacked Ferocity. Well, I guess we went Ferocity on the Tangrowth, and we got like HP fired, which
Yeah,
I get going to it because like you want to like preserve your mons. Uh, but yeah,
Tangrowth is just one of
but just
those
like an
guys
awkward
in
matchup.
Black
Yeah,
White where it's like, okay, well, one Specs Leaf Storm does 1,000% to everybody. Uh, but then even beyond that, it's like when you have guys like Moltres or Durant who are quad resists. I mean, Hidden Power exists in this gen. Hidden Power Rock isn't like the most uncommon thing. Hidden Power Fire is very common. Even Focus Blast will one shot Durant. So it's like, well, what? Okay, what do you? What are we doing now? Are we going into like
yeah,
Grass Resist that gets blown up by Focus Blast or HP Fire or HP Rock or something, or are you going into some fake resist like mid ground that's taking like 80% from Specs Leaf Storm?
yeah.
Hard mon to switch into. Hard mon to switch into.
Yeah, I think like it's funny because Baddy used the same team that was used in the other game. Like it's the same team Axel used,
Hmm.
but like because he got a really good call with Leaf Storm on Slowking, like he didn't lose the Slowking the way Axel did. But
Yeah.
just I feel like if you get that it's specs or like Tangrowth in general is super difficult. Like you kind of have to preserve Ferocity and Slowking. Like I know it sucks because you don't really want to lose anything else, but like these two are pretty much the only way you can maybe handle an offensive tank role. So you need this, you need Slowking, you need First Aid, you need Clefable. So I feel like Size Method is the one that kind of sucks in this. Because it
Yeah, I
doesn't
agree.
really
Yeah,
do well versus the team anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then again, I didn't really pay a ton of attention to the ADV game, but see you doing C things, unsurprising. Um,
Um, I don't remember it honestly. I think it happened like Friday was like the first game.
that wouldn't surprise me. We can actually like beat that right quick. Predictions. Yeah, it was like literally like the first game.
Yeah,
But yeah, so you glitched up, and then Punny, you know, did punny things and beat Rob Jr. in pretty convincing fashion in 2 games.
right.
Uh, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this set. I mean, we talked about most of these games. Um, have you become anything you want to kind of close with, or can we talk about the tiebreaker?
I don't have any closing thoughts now.
Very cool. Evie,
yeah, we can do tiebreaker.
tiebreaker, baby. So, okay, as y'all saw, Party Crashing Pranksters versus Technicians. They tied 5-5. So we go into everyone's favorite thing, the tiebreaker. Um, 3 tiers. SV is the default. This is the first one picked. I think the lower seed picks first. So in this case, that would have been the Technicians. They chose Oras. Wait, is that right? It is lower seed first, right?
Yeah,
The Technicians picked, or no, no. Okay, I'm tripping. So the Technicians picked
I think
ADV,
no.
and the Pranksters clicked
Yeah,
Oras. But this is just in order
yeah.
of like the gens. So that makes sense. Yeah. Um,
I mean, I feel like Philibren would love to put Finchinator in ADV for the raw falls, but I don't think he did that willingly at first.
yeah, no. So Technicians picked ADV, which makes sense. Spoiled Berries is at this point, I think, the best record in the tour. They're like 7-1, I want to say. Because am I double
I
checking
think
on that?
so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they only have the one loss. And then Oras is
Let
the
me check.
pranksters pick, where Chite has been cooking, and in this case, we actually saw this matchup in the like regular week. Oras Chite versus Doug, where again Chite had a Venusaur moment and blew Doug's out of the water. So yeah, SV we see Ashna
Oh, it's a
versus
seven
Franklin.
one.
This will be a big highlight. Um,
Mm.
Ajna, the best SV for the pranksters, and then Franklin, who's the Franklin, um, arguably the best arguer like currently overall. So this will be a major highlight. Uh,
I think it's number one versus number two in the Hall of Fame as well.
yeah,
Which, if you think this matter, is pretty cool.
it's very hype. Frank did recently pass Ajna as the number one guy in the Hall of Fame. So this will be kind of battle of the old versus slightly newer, but kind of still old in Franklin. Um, yeah, but yeah, who do y'all think should be favored in all of these? Personally, we can. I think SV is the only one to me that's like really super competitive. Like ADV, props to Finch. I don't think there's really any world where Barry should not be favored and like heavily favored at that. Just the season they put together and Finch, quite frankly, being like a spot pick here. Like, I mean, this is like a bandage pick. They're trying to fill a hole here. Yeah,
Shout out Philly Burn for like buying 3 ADV slots and having to put Finchinator in the tiebreak.
yeah. I don't know why they're not going with like Amity or Attack, like specifically Amity. I don't quite understand why they're on the bench here. Because like Finch is a great player, but this is not a tier necessarily where you want just like a quote unquote better pilot. Because we've seen this before in tiebreakers. If Evie, if you remember the RU blind draft tiebreaker, where it's like berries versus
Yeah.
we had them versus like a good pilot in Excel in that tiebreaker, and Excel got 6-0'd by a sub belly drum. Polyrath, like new bait turbo. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't really understand
Yeah.
the pranksters' ideology here, but maybe Finch can pull the
Finch
upset.
United Finch United doesn't really strike me as someone who plays a ton of ADV anyway. Like
Yeah,
I've seen him play GSC, I've seen him play DPP a lot, but I cannot remember a single game of him playing ADV. Like even OU, like I don't know.
no, hard to say. Whereas Douglas versus Chait, I mean, it's Chaitanya. I'd favor him. Like Douglas is a great player too, but especially just the matchup that we just saw in the semifinals doesn't exactly inspire a ton of confidence in me here. Um, but that is
I think
at this point old news, so anything can happen.
yeah, I mean I think I don't know because I think Douglas he's all right, but like Chaitanya at this point doesn't really care about like novelty and everything. He'll just bring boring if it means he wins. But Douglas kind of the person who could trip up in the builder a little bit. And like I don't really know the technicians the way they but I don't really see that much support in RS. So like kinda have to rein him in, but you don't really want him to bring boring because that's all he lost anyway in the semifinal.
Hmm.
I don't know. Tough game.
I'll be interested to see how this goes, but again, I mean, even support wise, I mean, Chaitanya's backed by Feli and Ajna and stuff. Like, hard to hard to pick against that. Um, which does leave us split. I mean, 1-1. I mean, Dom, is there anything you kind of have to say like different to that regard in ORAS or ADV?
Honestly, I don't know because I think I overall agree, but I do think like Shade Dugza is really close. I think it's
Okay.
closer than DV.
Yeah,
So like I
Barry's
think
Finch.
Oh yeah.
like yeah, I think I would overall like favor the technicians just because of that.
Okay. So that kind of brings us then to SV, which is the last one, and I think will more likely than not be the deciding factor of this set. So, uh, I mean, who are we picking here? Who do we think has the edge?
As the that's a really tough one. I think it depends on when they play, honestly. Because if it's the first game, I think Franklin wins. If it's the second game and the Pranksters are down 0-1, I think Ajna wins. That's kind of how I see it.
Oh, he's
And
got
if
that
it's the
clutch
last game?
factor in him.
Ajna
Yeah.
wins.
Okay.
So you think Ajna stepping up for the clutch, or if it's like the first one up, then you think Franklin's got it? I think that's an interesting way to go about things. Um,
Which I think based on the way like uh these three goons schedule, I think Ashna is the most likely to play last.
mhm, I'd agree.
But
Frank also has like a history of being last up for his team.
yeah.
If it's do or die, I think it wants to be Frank that is doing or dying there. Um, I think personally, I want to give the favor to Ajna and the pranksters in general, mostly because that they've been trying to do something new every week. They've been trying to do something kind of interesting. And that's not to say that the other guys haven't, but they definitely have been a little bit more, you know. And I'm talking about the pranksters here. They've been more like willing to use stuff that looks bad. Yeah, that is what I'll say. They're willing to use things like his Sage UI and his Sweet Electrode and all of those guys. And that is not something that the technicians and Frank specifically I have known to do. Um, so yeah, I'm giving the edge to them. I might blow up on them though.
I
I
hope
might bring like a Cinchino and get blown up. I don't know. Hard to say.
I I hope Ajna brings a Porygon Z. Like
See, that's not heat enough anymore. Too many people have used that mod.
I know. I want to see it again. Like I feel like I've only seen that one for a whole week, and now that I'm not seeing it, I miss it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, Evie, who would you give the edge here? Ajna, Frank? Or are you kind of like in Gum's, same mindset where it's like, okay, depending on who plays when?
Well, well. Speaking of Edge, I don't think Ajna's using Stone Edge after missing during the semifinals, and especially if he's playing Franklin. So, um, it's an interesting one because um, that's tough because usually the pranksters um they kind of seem like they build ideas together to play a lot of games based around these ideas. Like they're having fun, they're testing everything, but like now there's only one game in this week. And Ajna's the kind to build by himself. I don't know if it changes the dynamic a little bit for the team because like they only have this game to prep. And the other games like they I mean, Finchinator is gonna spam people to like, please help me, but they don't really have to do a lot of prayer this week. I don't know if it changes their dynamic.
All right.
Whereas Franklin, I mean, Franklin always strikes me as the one that like does his thing by himself. But like, so I would probably give a slight edge to Franklin because playing wise, I kind of agree with Gun that like if Ajna has the pressure on, he's better. But like in general, I don't think there's much of a difference between the
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, that is that, I think, for recaps and predicts for the tiebreak. Yeah, it's been a great season of RUPL. It's been a great playoff so far. Very tight sets. I'm glad that both these sets kind of came down to the wire, though. I mean, both of these came down to like last game whether or not we would have like a tiebreak or not. But yeah, are there any closing thoughts that either of you have before we head out?
No, just go Guardians. We have another finals to lose.
Yeah, go Guardians.
You can't say that. You should be saying, go Technician or go Chains or whatever.
Well, we lost.
Yeah, but you can still say go Chains or whatever.
Have you like not heard her at all this season?
So true. So true.
Liquidating until the day I die.
Okay,
Is
let's
that
not do
what?
that.
Is that better?
All right, chat. Everybody, if you've sat through this, has been one of the longer videos that we've done, which is quite funny since this was definitely the least amount of sets that we've covered. But thank you for sitting here, watching, listening. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. Do all that good stuff, and we'll catch you later when tie breaks are over and we have our finals pairings. Peace.
Right. Bye.